Hello, and welcome to our second Benchmark Live. Uh, really happy to have all of you here with us today, and appreciate the suspense that maybe we built yesterday with our technical difficulties. So really appreciate all of you coming back today to joining us. For those of you who have been at our prior Benchmark Report events, thanks for returning. And if it's your first time joining us, we're really happy to have you here. I'm Kristen Durham, your host today and the VP of Startup Initiatives at Zendesk. Zendesk started hosting these events in May as a way of sharing some of the data and insights from our benchmark to see how things have been changing over the past few months for businesses around the world when it comes to customer experience. Today, we're going to take a closer look at the startup community and share some of the things we uncovered in our research for the Startup CX Benchmark Report, a first of its kind, which we launched last week. I'd like to introduce two folks who are with me today. Ted Smith, Zendesk Senior Director of Market Intelligence, who will take us through some of the report findings. We also have Noelle McCullar, Senior Director of CX at Chooch AI, with us today to chat about what it takes to build great customer experience at a startup, some of the things he's learned. Without further ado, I will pass it over to Ted.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. And thanks to everyone who's tuning in. We are super excited for this session today. So last week, we released the Zendesk Startup CX Benchmark Report, which shows how early stage companies that invest in customer experience are actually outperforming their peers. And the findings feature Zendesk benchmark data from over 4,400 early stage startups from around the world. So it really gives founders and CX leaders some direct insight into this crucial part of their business that they may not have had before. Before we get into the bulk of the data, there's really one surprising statistic I wanted to call out. Our research actually uncovered that more than 70% of startup founders and decision makers do not have a formal customer support strategy in place. And so this really shows us that many companies, many startups are missing out on the opportunity to deliver those amazing customer experiences that are going to set them apart from their peers and really allow them to grow at the rate they want to grow. Now, as we go into this research, we're going to be talking a lot about fast growing startups. So how do we define that in our research? Well, to be considered a fast growing startup, companies must have doubled their customer support agent count in Zendesk within their first 2 years, and they have to have raised funds within the last 18 months. So think about it as recent fundraising plus fast growth of their customer support organization. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the data. Now, our research definitely illustrates that there's no one size fits all approach to service. There's no magic recipe for success. But if there's one overarching trend we saw, it's that fast growing startups are generally moving faster and investing more in customer support than their peers. So whether you're early in your support journey or you're well on your way, we've tried to develop some key performance benchmarks from those startups who are growing fast to help assess your performance. How are you doing? How do you compare against those companies that are growing quickly? And so if you look at our report, there's really four key takeaways we talk about. I'm going to go over each of these at a high level now and then go into a little bit more detail on a few of them. So the first takeaway is that customer service drives growth. We saw startups that see faster growth rates, they start thinking about customer service earlier and they embrace more tools and processes than the rest. Our data actually shows that 1 out of 3 fast-growing startups added support within 2 years of the company being founded. So they're thinking about this stuff really early on in their journey. The second takeaway is that omni-channel cuts wait times. So fast-growing startups were more likely to use omni-channel and chat support to help cut wait times and drive the efficient teams they're looking to build. In fact, we saw 2x faster resolution time for fast-growing startups by their second year. Now, the third trend is all around unicorns. Unicorns actually embrace self-service in a big way. Those companies that have gone on to become unicorns prioritized self-service features from the beginning. They were 61% faster to adopt self-service features compared to non-unicorns. And then the The fourth takeaway is about priorities. We actually would argue that startups should rethink their priorities when reevaluating customer service and engagement tools, because we see that fast growth startups are more likely to use an omni-channel strategy and lean on self-service. But startup leaders said these features actually were less influential in their buying decision when they were evaluating customer service tools. So an opportunity to reprioritize omni-channel and self-service. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to double click on a few of these takeaways and look at some more of our data. So we saw that investing in customer service drives growth. And one of the really interesting things we saw here is that the timing is really important when it comes to investing in customer service. We saw that fast growing startups that are Zendesk customers were 33% more likely than other startups to implement support within a year of being founded. And so when should early stage startups think about adding support according to our benchmark of fast growing companies? Well, you'll actually want to do so within 9 to 10 months of your first round of funding. So pretty early on in that journey. Now, you're also going to want to consider early adoption of tools that prioritize speed and convenience for your customers and other internal teams. Compared to their peers, we saw that fast growing startups were 33% more likely to add omnichannel in their first 2 years. And they were 20% more likely to add live channels like chat during that same time period, which really helps them solve customer requests faster than asynchronous channels, things like email. And so in summary, we saw that fast growing startups are quicker to adopt support. They utilize more tools and communication channels, and they really ensure they're delivering on that seamless omni-channel experience that their customers are expecting. And as a result, they're responding to customers faster and more efficiently than their peers. So, as fast growing startups put more time and effort into their support operations, their investments are definitely paying off. We saw increased productivity, which means less time keeping customers waiting and a better experience for customers and agents. Here's an example. At 6 months, early stage startups had nearly identical wait times regardless of whether they were fast growing or not. In fact, at that point, it actually took fast growing teams an hour longer on average to first reply to a customer request than their slower growth peers. But we saw this change. By year 2, fast growing startups were actually resolving tickets and responding to customer questions in about half the time than their slower growth peers. And so what was driving this improvement? Well, fast growing startups, they're doing a lot more than just throwing more people at the increased demand from their customers to get these quicker results. We actually see that their agents get more productive over time due to the increased use of technology. For example, with all the investment fast growing startups are making in support, we see that efficiency improves over time, and the number of tickets per agent is on average 42% greater for the fast growing group than other startups after 2 years. So around this, couple of recommendations around efficiency and response times we would throw out there. So again, productivity improvements, they take time and investment, but a good target for agent efficiency by the end of year 1, you should target 100 tickets per agent per month. That's a good benchmark. And if you're an early stage startup, you should aim to keep your reply times to about 3 hours for non-live channels, so channels like email. And you should aim to have tickets resolved within 1 business day by your 2nd year of adding a support platform. That's how you keep up and sort of mimic the behavior of these fast growing startups. So what about unicorns, right? Every startup wants to become the next big thing. So what can we learn from the companies using Zendesk that have gone on to become unicorns? Well, for one, we see that they adopt omni-channel and live channels quicker than anyone else, faster even than that fast-growing startup cohort that we've been talking about. In their first 2 years, unicorns were 37% more likely to offer omni-channel customer service, 38% more likely to have rolled out chat, and 48% more likely to have phone support. And they were also quicker to build out online help centers to help answer common customer questions before the customer even reached out for help. Unicorns added self-service 61% faster than other startups in the first year. And the majority of unicorns, over 60%, had a self-service feature in place by year 2. So that's a lot of data, right? Before I wrap, I want to talk about one more thing, which is go a little bit deeper on the importance of self-service according to our data. Now, as you can see in these charts, to deliver better experiences for customers, faster growth startups directed more resources towards self-service and live channels like phone and chat. So if you're new to support, you should focus on launching self-service early. Our benchmark actually suggests that you should launch your online help center with at least 8 articles to start, and you should aim to add 3 new articles each month, because this ensures that the quality of your self-service continues to improve over time and you continue to improve that customer experience you're delivering. So look, that's a real quick walkthrough of some of the key findings from our report. There is a ton more data where that came from. So I would definitely encourage you, if you want to learn more, please do go to our website and check out the full report. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Kristen, who's going to dive into the next part of this presentation.
Great. Thank you, Ted. And with that wonderful introduction to the research, I'm excited to now dive in with our special guest, Noelle. Welcome, Noelle, and thank you again for joining us for our second Benchmark Live. And just to kick things off, maybe you can help us by telling us a bit about Chooch AI, what your role is on the team, and also about your experience working in CX for fast-growing startups.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the introduction. I'll start with Chooch AI. Chooch AI is a visual AI platform. Basically what we're doing over here at Chooch is cloning the visual expertise of a human and putting it into a computer. So we've been working in industries in regards to health, on-site management, and of course safety. And our goal is to just overall increase efficiencies and productivities using AI. For me, my experience over the last 7 years has been in customer success, working in support, supporting the entire customer base at the start of my success career, all the way to, of course, being working directly with accounts and customers as a customer success manager, all the way to now being the leader of the customer success team here at Chooch, really responsible for managing the relationships with the customers, making sure the overall customer experience is on par and continuously improving. And then, of course, last but not least, making sure that the team is all on the same page and we are all working together on the same common goal.
Fantastic. And I think one of the things that's really great about your experience, Noelle, is you've kind of seen this at all sizes and scales of companies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting, was fortunate enough to work with Google and Apple, which of course, large teams. From there, worked with 4 different startups, all different sizes, of course, different products, different verticals. So I've definitely been able to see quite a few different customer experiences within different verticals and working with different customer success teams. So plenty of experience there.
Great. So let's dive in and maybe talk to us a little bit about Chooch AI's customer experience strategy. I know you weren't on the founding team there, but can you talk about what was the company's initial strategy? How does that strategy look today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're absolutely right. I joined Chooch AI back in October. And we have launched commercially a little bit over a year at this point. And when I initially joined the team, the strategy was really, of course, any inbound, mainly through our email channel. Of course, we would respond to those as quickly as we could, given the size of our team. But the focus was really to collect feedback, right? To collect feedback, deliver that feedback to our dev team, our product team, and see how we can make sure that we're on par with our strategy as well as, what our customers want. I would say now we have only enhanced that by still collecting the feedback, right? We're putting a little bit more data behind it, which Zendesk support is helping us do a ton. But also, making sure that how we respond, not only educates the customer, but also helps us understand, how to build the proper self-serving tools, which Ted was speaking to. It's interesting enough, that's exactly where we are now, making sure that not only we are supporting our customers by responding to them and collecting their feedback, but also providing them with the proper tools to help themselves. So that would be our focus at this point.
And when the team was getting started, and I'm sure even now, you're always going through this process of prioritizing time and investments. From a tools perspective, what have been those things that really helped you early on, and that you're thinking will kind of carry you into the future?
Yeah, that's a good question in regards to tools. There's so many great tools out there, right? That could be used. But in regards to our strategy and how we're looking at it, first things first, we want to understand what our problem is internally and what we're trying to solve, how we want to present our product and service to our customers, and also how they're digesting it already. Once we pretty much laid that foundation, the first couple of months I was here, we knew that, we didn't want our customers to go on our site and learn about us and then have to go to a specific page to know what our support email is, right? They should be able to quickly ask any question right at the bottom of our page, which again, Zendesk support is helping us with that. But we also are looking at, how do we quickly respond? How do we, quickly provide the proper support articles? And then also which support articles are, being viewed the most by our customers. So in looking into that's what we wanted to capture and that's what we wanted to do. We went to G2 Crowd actually to look and see what companies are using and how they are evaluating these tools, and essentially put a top 3 and say, hey, these are the 3 tools that we think can solve our problems. Let's do a trial run with all of them and see what's going to best solve the problems that we have pointed out.
That's great. I really love that. And when we have talked before too, you mentioned that, taking the time to really do the homework up front makes those decisions and the confidence you can have when you roll them out in the company much greater. I want to kind of fast forward and talk about sort of the moment we're in right now. And obviously a lot has changed over the past few months in the way that we work and do business. And I'm curious, what kind of changes has Chooch AI experienced when it comes to how your customers and prospects are connecting with you? And what have you done to adjust your strategy from what it might have been 6 to 12 months ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. The world has changed so much over the last couple of months. What's changed the most for us, I mean, we've gotten a huge uptick in regards to inbound, both on the business development side as well as the support side. And lots of people are using our platform and service. So what we've had to do is, given our small team, we've had to understand how to prioritize the inbound and make sure that everyone is still being answered, right? Making sure that everyone is still being supported. But we also want to make sure that we're prioritizing that properly, right? We have paying customers monthly, we have enterprise customers, we have free customers, we have people who are trying to become customers. So just as a team, understanding what the inquiries are, how to prioritize them, and why, that prioritization has become very, very important. And I don't want to say that we weren't prioritizing before. It just is now very, very, it's at the forefront now. We understand that, we have to know who's coming to our site and who's talking to us. So the prioritization, I would say, has been the biggest change for us.
Yeah, this is probably the kind of complexity that startups would love to have, in their business, right? More customer types, more segments trying to be serviced. And maybe for the audience, because I wasn't a little clear myself, when you talk about visual AI and some of the applications right now, what are those?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of my favorite applications that we're working on, it's actually one of the biggest car dealerships internationally. And they've broken it down to a science on, when you post a car for sale on your website, the perfect angle, how does the car look? Is the car clean? And things of that nature. They've broken it down to a science where if you have the proper picture, this is the percentage of that car being sold, right? So what they've done is trained, using Chooch AI to have, to make sure that all of the people who are uploading these photos are doing it properly, right? So again, the proper angle, if the car is clean, if the tires are showing. Definitely not something that I'm an expert at, but they've broken it down to a science, and now they've trained Chooch. So now when these photos are uploaded, it's, their platform will let them know, hey, this photo, this is not the proper photo for you to upload to sell this particular car. So that's one. Another one is workplace safety, right? So for one of the firms that we're also working with, they want to make sure that everyone on site has, a hard hat on, has their glasses on, now have their masks on. We're able to detect all of those things pretty quickly. And those would be the two use cases that I would say that are my favorite.
Great. I think that's really helpful. And it helps to demonstrate just how varied the customers are that you're working with, and the use cases of how your products are being used are also just so different. And as you kind of take that context and look forward and think about the next stage or evolution of your customer experience strategy, what does that look like? How does it fit within Chooch AI's overall growth plans? What more do you have in store for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I spend half of my day thinking about what you just asked. But I think Ted hit the nail on the head. More self-serve, right? Making sure that because we have so many different verticals, because we have so many different profiles of customers, we're properly collecting not only the feedback, but the questions that are asked per vertical, per customer. That way we can build a big enough and healthy enough help center where they can go in and get those answers right away, right? And as we know, not only customers have those questions, but also prospects. So maybe prospects will be more inclined to actually sign up if they know the answer to the question without having to reach out to us and ask directly, right? So definitely a more healthier self-serve option. And then I would also say a better feedback channel. We're collecting feedback. We're promoting that we're collecting feedback. But I think we could do an even better job. And I know that, again, us being Zendesk users and being able to collect the data and track it over time, I want to make sure that this is high priority for us. Not that we will build our entire platform, and stray away from the roadmap by any means, but more importantly, we have a firm grasp on what our customers want. So those two things are our main focus moving forward, a healthier overall self-serve option as we continue to grow. Also, doing a better job of collecting and prioritizing the customer feedback.
That's great. And that rings true. I think we see with a lot of startups we work with, building a startup is a team sport. And so you guys are playing a lot of roles, not just this traditional post-sales support role, but really trying to understand and serve prospects and kind of, working in marketing kinds of ways. And I think, what struck me about your approach and really just trying to collect feedback from day one, you may not have the full data architecture built, you may not know exactly where it's going to be used, but this data is your customers revealing themselves to you and helping you understand them more deeply going into the future, which is just really, really wonderful. Whatever that future holds, right?
Exactly.
And so maybe just one more question before I let you go, Noelle. We heard Ted mention at the start of his presentation that one of the most surprising findings from our CX startups benchmark report was that 70% of startup founders and decision makers said they don't have a formal customer support strategy in place. As someone who's been there, done that multiple times, what's your advice to startups who maybe haven't yet begun mapping out their CX strategy, and what should they do to get started?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I'm going to double down on the report that Ted presented earlier. As you got to do it as early as you can, because you can really get insight from prospects and customers by opening that support channel right away. So I would say to early stage startups, as you're working on your sales team, as you're working on your marketing, quickly think about implementing support. I simply think about, on a, not even, in regards to tech, but just walking into an Apple store and understanding how much I enjoy my customer experience and how much they, invest in their customer experience. That's the same thing, on the SaaS side. It's very important for those potential users and, current users that are coming to your site and using your platform to have a great overall experience. So they keep coming back, so they recommend more, so they care so much about your product that they enjoy it. And if there's something that they don't like, they'll just share the feedback with you because they enjoy it so much, right? I think support is probably the best channel for that. So my advice would be to invest early and often in support, and your customers and prospects will be happy.
Fantastic. Thanks, Noelle. This has all been, really so insightful and hopefully really valuable to the startups who might be watching and thinking about their own customer experience needs. I want to say thank you again to Ted and really everyone for joining us today. To those that are watching live, feel free to keep leaving comments and asking questions. Someone on the Zendesk social media team will get back to you, or we'll share it with the Chooch AI team if it's something for Noelle. Thank you, everyone.